Ned, if I if I may, I'd like to follow on sanctions. So you mentioned those additional measures means additional sanctions, but what might be the trigger? What might trigger them? So what else are you waiting from Moscow? Moscow is bombing Kiev and other Ukrainian cities. I have the moral right to tell about this. I'm not speculating because my family spent this night in the shelter. So what else might happen? Just to push administration to apply the additional sanctions. And secondly, if I may, there are a lot of talks in Ukraine about the possibility of some kind of talks with the Russians. President Zelensky told about this in his statement that maybe America and United Kingdom may back in Ukraine in those conversations. So what's your message to Ukraine? Do you think that it's necessary right now or it's the wrong way? Thank you.
Thank you. So we do believe that diplomacy is the only responsible way to address this. That was our belief prior to the start of the Russian invasion. It is our belief now that the Russian invasion and assault on Ukraine has begun. At the same time, we want to see diplomacy conducted in a context and an environment in which it can succeed. Our concern had been prior to the Russian invasion that, again, Moscow was using the so-called pretense of diplomacy, pretending to take part in serious diplomatic discussions, having these staged, highly choreographed meetings of the National Security Council, where President Putin would instruct his lieutenants to engage in diplomacy, only as he continued to amass his forces. Now we see offers of diplomacy at the barrel of a gun. We see these offers as tanks continue to roll across the border, as your fellow countrymen, your fellow countrywomen remain subject to unimaginable levels of violence and brutality by the Russian Federation. We want to make clear to President Putin that diplomacy by the barrel of a gun, coercive diplomacy, is not something that we are going to take part in. It is not something that will bring an end to this conflict in a real, genuine, and sustainable way. We do want to see diplomacy succeed. That is why we are doing everything we can through our public messaging, but in some ways, much more importantly, through the measures we have introduced over the past couple days, coercive measures that are designed to contour President Putin's next moves, to put pressure on his economy, on his financial system, on those around him, and on President Putin himself, so that we see de-escalation, we see diminution of violence, we see withdrawal of forces. We have not seen any of those things just yet, but these measures were just instituted, and it is our sincere desire to see this going forward so that we can work diplomatically to bring an end to this senseless, unprovoked violence. In terms of sanctions, as we've said, we have instituted the most biting, the most crippling, the most devastating set of sanctions together with our allies and partners that the world has ever seen. And we have additional measures that if we do not see de-escalation, if we do not see a diminution in violence, that we are prepared to enact, again, together with our allies and partners.